Right. Now, what does victory mean has to be defined in this case, and it means completely different things for the Iranians, for the Americans, and for the Israelis. You said something interesting, that this is a problem that affects not just the United States of America, but in fact the rest of the world as well. The American president has been dialing other leaders. He's spoken with Vladimir Putin. There are back-channel talks that are going on with the Chinese as well. Do you think any of these other nations would want to intercede on behalf of the American president, or do you think these other big players with stakes in the Middle East would actually let the American president try to find his way through? Because this is a war that he started. The Russians are quite clearly making a huge windfall of $150 million because Trump has in fact gone back and said that other nations should purchase oil from Russia. Why do you think these other stakeholders would want to come and help out Donald Trump?
Well, I don't necessarily think that they want to, per se, help Donald Trump. It's all about self-interest. And when you have 20% of the world's oil supply going through the Strait of Hormuz, and you have a country like China that is very much dependent upon foreign oil that's coming through that strait, well, I don't necessarily think that Russia or China are going to intercede militarily, but are there other ways for them to apply pressure on Iran to say, listen, you're not going to win, and you need to be able to come up with a solution here, and that solution is going to include not developing nuclear weapons. That's what this is about. So to the extent that they can put pressure on Iran to alter their plans to be a nuclear power.
If I can just interject there, do you see any pressure at all? When I say intercede, I don't mean militarily. Do you see any pressure at all by the Chinese or the Russians on the Iranians at this moment? Because as far as Beijing and Moscow are concerned, they see this as an opportunity where Washington could be humbled by a much smaller power because of the economic pain that America will feel by getting into a war that could have been avoided if one had listened to military experts, like, for instance, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, Dan Kane, who had advised Donald Trump to not go into this war.
Well, look, people are not in favor of going to war. It takes a lot to pull a nation into a war. Now, I'm not privy to what information is being shared behind the scenes and with President Trump. So we really don't know to the extent how close Iran was to a nuclear bomb or multiple bombs. So these are things that we don't know. And we have to keep in mind that Russia and China are also not going to publicly state their positions because, as I said, this is about self-interest. Everyone wants this war to end. But I do not believe that Donald Trump is going to allow that to happen without complete victory. And I think victory is defined here as there is no chance for Iran to ever develop a nuclear weapon again.
All right, we'll talk about what victory could in fact mean in this conflict. Do continue to stay on with this, Mr. Geltrud. Meanwhile, let's get in some breaking updates that have come in.